side, me. We are happy to be here and to give you a technical presentation, the benefits and challenges with Citrix DaaS, our journey as a customer in Switzerland with the Citrix Cloud solution. So we split it or divided this presentation in 4 parts. First, a short intro, then our information about the migration in this journey, how the operation will be, and what is very important for you, maybe something you can take with you, the tips and tricks what you have if you are made the same journey. So about me, I'm Sacha Thomet, living in Bern, Switzerland, working since 8 years for an insurance company, and I'm a CTP, and I'm also leading and a founding member of the Swiss Citrix user group community. In my private life, I'm a scuba diver. I have an 8-year-old son, and yeah, I think that's basically it. I give it to you, René.
Good morning from my side as well. It's great to be here. Coming from a small country into a big country, a huge city, coming from a tiny city called Thun, close to the Bernese mountains, around roughly 30,000 people living there. I think it's amazing to be here. So my name is René Bigler. I'm working in public education for a Swiss public college based in the region where I live. I'm in IT around 25 years. Basically not studied IT, coming from the teacher side. So I'm still teaching 3 lessons a week usually, not this year because of other projects, but basically I'm a teacher, and but getting more and more into IT, and today leading the IT department of our college. I'm a Citrix technology professional as well as Nutanix technology champion. It's a similar program and involved in the Agile VIP community program as well. And member of the Swiss CUGC group together with Sacha.
Okay, so first we say, okay, we want to make something with Citrix Apps and Desktop Service, Citrix Cloud, and now we make DaaS. I think it's not so new for you, but that's the new name for the Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop Service. And what's confusing for some customers I know in Switzerland is that you don't really get desktop with DaaS. You can deliver desktop with DaaS. And so that's important to know because you still have to see how to provide the desktop. Yeah, why we as insurance called Immobiliar has decided to go for Citrix Cloud with DaaS. Some say we are just lazy admins at our company, we won't work anymore, so we pay calls as a software as a service. That's not really the truth, but I think it makes the life easier because we don't have to care about annoying things like updating some servers and so. But I think we don't have less to do. Then it gives us the possibility to also have cloud deployments, because our company has the vision to have an empty data center in 2026. First it was 2025, but now they see things are going longer than initially planned. Also, our mainframe was intended to shut down in maybe the year 2000, and we shut it down 5 years ago.
So maybe it might become 27.
27, maybe also 2030, but I want to talk, I think it's recorded, and maybe our CIO will have a look on that, then I'm in trouble. So I don't speculate on that. Well, for what we are using today, or the latest year's Citrix, it's almost all that in the virtual apps and desktop. So we have administrative desktops for administrators who connect to the backend. We have for the users at home with bring your own device, with applications inside the company where we want to have the front end here of the back end, so all the known scenarios. We are using Citrix DaaS, Netscale for access from outside. We have 3 different domains for development, integration, production, and we have 2 different Azure AD tenants where we are working on it. So the idea was now to go there and shut down all the on-premises servers and replace them by Citrix Cloud or Citrix DaaS. That's pretty easy. There is a good blueprint on the Citrix tech zone. By the way, if you see any barcodes, you can scan them and then you can connect to the URL, which is written also on the site. So that was our intention. The journey was pretty long. So in 2019, we started with the decision, yes, we go now to Citrix Cloud. And we are an insurance, and we also have life insurance. So this is the same thing like banks in Switzerland. We have to deal with all the regulatory things, and so it's difficult to really make a decision to then, until we really migrate. Now it's 3 years, and also COVID doesn't help much by make fast decisions, so we have a long story. I don't go in all the details, but it also has changed the CIO, and so another one has to make the contract and so on. And also the technical things was difficult for our security people and so. But now we are really in the stage when I come back from this trip, I will really shut down the on-premise thing and just use the cloud thing. And what we now have not yet in the plan to change is the gateway, so we still will the gateway service not used from the cloud, we still have it on premise for the next 2 years, I think. So I hand over now to René, so you can proceed.
Thank you, Sacha. So my goal is to give you some insights in our challenges we're dealing at our colleges with the old Citrix deployment. We have been running 2 data centers in 2 campus locations. In total, we have 5 campus sites. We have to provide our services to around 3,500 students. That's a pretty small number for you guys, probably, but for Switzerland, a tiny country, we're pretty big, or a large school, I would say. 3,500 students, 300 and around 50 faculty staff members, around roughly 500 managed endpoints by us, by the school. Obviously, bring your own device is a big topic in education in Switzerland as well. Most of our students, as well as faculty staff members, want to work on their own private owned devices. So today we're dealing probably with around 4,000 bring your own devices. But that's just a small part. My team consists of about five people running the whole IT for the whole college. And Citrix is just a tiny part of our whole infrastructure. We have to do with printers. Yes, they're still printing in education as well. We have to deal with multi-function devices like Canon Sharp stuff, all all those kind of devices. We have to deal with visualizers, with projectors, with Wi-Fi, with wireless projecting systems, and so on and so forth. 3D printing, smart goggles, AR, VR equipment, and so on. So there's a lot going on in the college as well, and Citrix is not the whole part. That's the challenge. Dealing with all this with about five full-time people in IT. Our Citrix use case, it's a enabling technology, I think, for our bring your own device deployment to allow our students as well as faculty staff members to work on their personal endpoints, especially when they need more than just Office 365. Obviously, that they can install on their bring your own devices, but we have technical departments as well, mechanics, automotive, construction workers, and they're dealing with some stuff like Autodesk, CAD stuff, and so on and so forth. And they don't have maybe the licensing to run the stuff on their endpoints, or their endpoints are not capable to run all the stuff. So our Citrix use case always has been a big building block to enable this bring your own device scenarios, as well for our company managed or campus managed endpoints. We try to get rid of the good old Windows fat clients as much as possible. We went with the Linux-based thin client operating system. They might be here as well, I think. So that's another use case for our campus provided endpoints in computer labs, in faculty offices, and so on. Remote learning, obviously, during the pandemic become a thing as well, and as I think it's here to stay. So for the future as well, our bosses are thinking about hybrid educational models where our students maybe don't have to come to the campus every school day, so they can do some work from home, from their companies. By the way, in Switzerland we have this dual college system, so they come to our college for 1 or 2 days a week, and for the rest of their time they're working, learning on the job in an enterprise, in a company, on the job training. So in the future, probably in Switzerland will go this way to provide some forms of hybrid learning as well. So now, but why Citrix Cloud? That's my personal opinion. I have to declare it. It's not related to my CTP status. Maybe Citrix has another thinking about it, but I think personally, if you want to go forward, be future-proof, get the latest and greatest technology, see that on-prem is a thing of the past. But that's just one reason, I think. Other reasons for us have been to get rid of as many of those legacy, I call them legacy Citrix components as possible, because as you have seen, we have to deal with a lot of other technologies as well. So in our case, the migration to CVAT service by this time back then allowed us to get rid of 4 storefront servers, 4 delivery controllers, database server, licensing server, web, on-prem deployment, as well as 2 Citrix ABCs for the gateway. That's what we could get rid of by migrating to CVAT service. Today's Citrix deployment consists of 2 cloud connectors. We have to still run, unfortunately, but it's not yet possible in another way. On-prem Citrix federated authentication servers or services. There's still the need for the on-premises components to run this technology to provide single sign-on combined with Azure AD. That's our identity provider we use. We have around 200 pooled non-persistent desktops, mainly Windows 10, 22, H1 deployments. We have some non-persistent VMs for published apps and desktops, like this Autodesk stuff and so on I mentioned already. The whole workloads, we still run those workloads on premises in our Nutanix-based data centers running on Nutanix AHV, some of the workloads backed up by NVIDIA GPU power. Azure AD I mentioned already as the IDP, and compared to Mobiliar, as Sacha mentioned it, they still use their on-premises gateways. We decided to fully go cloud and use the gateway service that comes with that service. We also tried to implement the latest and greatest technology to optimize the user experience. I will talk later a little bit more about this, like direct workload connections from the WHO protocols and EDT service continuity and so on. Yep. So short, our journey dates back to 2018, probably first trials of Citrix Cloud. It has been a long journey. Money was the blocking factor for a long time, especially back those days when CVAP wasn't available as a separate product. It wasn't available in a concurrent licensing model with 3,500 students paying named user licensing, simply too expensive for us. But the game changer was when Citrix decided to offer CVAP service as a separate part, and especially to offer it in a concurrent licensing model. Unfortunately, today there are still other components that are still not available in a concurrent licensing model, like analytics service. We would love to look into analytics for performance, but it's still not available in a concurrent licensing model, at least on our tier. Yeah.
So, then I will now continue with the migration we made. We started, so we decided to make use of this automated configuration tool, which you can install a small part software on premises, and then you run the software and you can get some files which contains all the configuration you have in YAML files. It's also possible to change things in there. I didn't done that, but how I hear from others that that's possible. And the next step is that you merge your configuration into the cloud, into the DaaS. So this is pretty easy. Just if you maybe have some bad stuff on premise, you also copy the bad stuff up. But if you have a proper, good working configuration, or you have many applications, it definitely makes sense to have a look at this tool. I can say it works good. And there is also a good documentation in Citrix Tech Zone and a podcast about it, where it is explained well. So that's the way we done it. René chose another way. He tell us about this later. What we also have done then for the operation part, and we also had already to do it during the migration, is all the things what we have automated with PowerShell scripts. First, we had to change it that it works properly also with DaaS. So it's possible to reuse the scripts you have and still use the PowerShell, but if you want to make it better, you have new possibilities with DaaS, as you have a nice API. So I will show this on the next slide. So first we all had with this PowerShell scripts, and now you have proper REST APIs, how you know it from other vendors. And for this, we had a company working for us. This is Jonathan, and he wrote all my PowerShell scripts into a nice REST API script, and it's much more faster than the old way. So you don't have to read all the code, but it's with really a small amount of lines you can get fast and nice running automation within the AAS. The things what we done, two examples. One is that when you build, so our workloads are still on premises in our data centers. Maybe later it will be in Azure after we have 2027, 8, 9, don't know. But now it's on premises, and we build up the machines with SCCM, and then it's being registered with this REST API scripts within the AAS. Also, we have one script that makes some maintenance tasks, like renaming the names, what you see in Citrix storefront or Citrix workspace, because we don't want to see just dedicated desktop, we want to see dedicated desktop and the host name afterwards. So that's also done by a script. And something other what we also done is that we put the machines in maintenance mode when we upgrade actually the Windows 10 to a next version of Windows 10. Otherwise, Citrix goes, when you don't see anymore the machine online, he goes and put the power off, power on button, and it will mess up the whole migration of the Windows version when make an in-place upgrade from one to the other version. So that was some examples what we are using the automation scripts done by us. The scripts, the automation, and this is also valid for the automated configuration tool, all needs this identity, this users, which you will find in identity and access management. So you have to create a token, and the script runs under this token. Now here, what is very important to know, if you do this, or if you create this token by you, this secret, and you are leaving the company, it is no more valid. So what we have done, we have created a user, it's called Hans Meyer, so this is the German name of Joe Doe, or John Doe, and we will let running all the scripts in the context of this user. So when I leave the company, not all the scripts are no more running. Yeah, that's what I just said. And it's also possible to see the logs of this. So when you are in the console, you see here it's difficult to read, but you see that this John Doe or this Hans Meyer is running this particular tasks. But it's also possible, we've done this first when it was TechView, I think now it's GA, it's that you are using groups in Azure ID for help desk or support teams. So you don't have to enroll all the help desk stuff in Citrix Cloud. You just have to connect your Azure AD to DAS or to Citrix Cloud. For us, here is a bit of a problem that we have multiple Azure ADs and we can just connect one at the time in one Citrix Cloud tenant. Perhaps there will be changes in future. Yeah, and then now hand over to René to talk about migration.
Thank you, Sacha. So, as we mentioned already, at IDM we went with another approach, not the migration script. We used the site aggregation feature of Citrix Cloud, where you can bind or blend legacy on-premises deployments into the Citrix workspace service and present the on-premises resources within the new workspace to your end users, and with this we could do a phased approach to basically slowly move over from on-premises to cloud. It's pretty easy to configure. I think on the next slide we have a short video where you have to set this up. It's basically just putting in or flipping a switch and connecting your on-premises DDCs to the CVAT service deployment by entering the DDC's addresses. This allowed us to run in parallel and build the cloud deployment on basically a greenfield, and then switch over from the old deployment to the new one. That was our migration approach. Now, I wanted to give you some insights how we went with optimization topics, especially when using Citrix Cloud with Gateway Service. There are a couple of things you have to consider. I mentioned here 3 main points, I think. It's about availability and resiliency. It's about the end user experience, trying to keep the latency as low as possible, and it's also cost that comes into play. Availability and resiliency when running everything in cloud, obviously we have to rely on Citrix Cloud services. They have outages as well, maybe not in Citrix, but the backend system, they're running their management stack on it. It's, as far as I know, run on Azure, and there might be outages. And if you don't have any storefronts on premises, you don't have any gateways on premises, how your users are going to connect to the desktops. That's something to consider. Internet connection interruptions might come into play when it comes to user experience. It's about minimizing latency, about maximizing throughput, and cost-wise, internet and gateway service bandwidth is something to consider, as well as reducing the required number of cloud connector VMs, because that's a critical part of the whole deployment. So, Citrix DaaS connection optimization, we make use of direct workload connections. That's a technology that allows you to directly connect your end users on working on machines within your network perimeter, where they have direct access to the workloads without going through the gateway service. So basically, your connection is local. And how does the CVAT service know if you're working from home or at the campus? In our case, you can configure the public internet-facing public IP address in the backend system, and say every user that comes from this public IP is considered as an internal user and has direct access to your workload. In our case, it was a bit tricky to set it up, because also we just have one public IP as assigned by government in our case, and so also all our users working on bring your own devices, going through the guest Wi-Fi at our school, are coming from the same public IP address. In a best case scenario, you would have multiple public IPs to split the traffic, and only consider internal clients as clients managed by you and bring your own device probably sent through the gateway service. In our case, we had to open up some ports, the usual Citrix ports to allow this. Now, with this setup, this allows you that users that are sitting in your internal network to directly connect to the workloads, while other users sitting at home or wherever still go through the gateway service. Another optimization technology is rendezvous protocol, which allows you that the VDA, the workers, maintain a direct connection with the Citrix cloud backend systems, and not all the traffic is tunneled through the cloud connectors. On the other hand, this allows you to reduce the number of cloud connectors, scale down the number as well as the performance of the cloud connector VMs by bypassing these cloud connectors for the whole HDX traffic. With Rendezvous Vault 2, version 2, it's even possible to bypass the management traffic as well. So cloud connectors in a end scenario, Sacha will mention it at the end of our presentation, allows you even to go completely connectorless. Third technology I mentioned, service continuity. It's basically a set of different technologies that allows you to be somehow resilient against all those interruptions, all those service outages. It's very easy to configure. It's basically flipping a switch in the management portal. Unfortunately, not all endpoints are supported yet, especially when looking at sync clients, Linux-based sync clients. There's a problem because service continuity requires some sort of persistence to have cached user logon information on the device per user, and obviously a sync client system usually is a non-persistent system where you don't have any surviving data between reboots, and it's a multi-user system as well. But it saved us some time already from big outages. All our users on Windows endpoints, on Mac endpoints didn't notice service disruption. Yeah, some tips and tricks from my side. It's now in tech preview. It's possible to have your custom workspace URL. You can set it up so that your user don't have to connect to the cloud.com portal. You can use your vanity URL, your personal owned domain. You have to prove you're the owner by setting some TXT records, and then you can set it up. It's pretty straightforward to do it. Unfortunately, the custom workspace URL as of today only supports desktop and apps workloads, not yet published content. So because we're making use of this published content feature as well, it's not yet possible to use the custom workspace URL in our use case, but it's probably coming. Another thing that is very cool for the end users is to set up the workspace detection by their company email address. Pretty straightforward. You probably know how to set up it in an on-premises deployment where you have the service entries in DNS. In the cloud world, it's similar, but not through DNS. You again have to prove ownership of the domain and then make use of a configuration service in the cloud where you can set up and redirect your end users based on their company email address domain to the right cloud workspace. auto discovery service, pretty straightforward to set up. That's the published content piece I mentioned. We deployed a couple of links. Basically, those are all web resources into our workspace app. And if the user clicks on these icons, it just launches a regular installed local browser, the default browser on the machine, on the Linux thin client. For example, we have Chromium defined as the default browser, and with this they can use especially multimedia content in the best possible way without going through the virtual machines and without going through Citrix. Unfortunately, not yet supported with custom workspace Europe. Yeah, that's how you set it up. You have to dig into some PowerShell codes to publish this published content, but it's once you have done it, it's pretty easy. Last but not least, a very fresh addition. It has been there for quite some time, but you have to call into Citrix support to get real true single sign-on with Azure AD. The default configuration on Citrix Cloud is to always ask the user to enter his username and password. And now with this flipping the switch, it's possible to rely on pre-authentication. Maybe the user already has authenticated on his endpoint by launching OneDrive against Azure AD, so why should he enter a second time his username and password against Azure AD just to launch the Citrix workspace? By flipping the switch, you become now true single sign-on and end user as the best possible end user experience. Yeah, that's it from my part, I think. Back to Sacha.
Thank you, René. So I think power management, you all know from the on-premises version of Citrix apps and desktops, and it still exists, of course, but they even made it better. Now it's called Autoscale, and I think they really have a very, very nice tool integrated to it. Some of you maybe have read on my blog that I had some tricky stuff to have different machine catalogs and open up just when one catalog is empty or all the resources are used to another. For example, if you have a pool with GPUs, with graphic cards, and another with not, and just you want to give out the desktops with graphic cards, and then when all these are used, just to give the cheaper one. Or another example, you have some workloads on premises, but you can also use workloads from the cloud. So you first want to get the already paid on-premises workloads, and when these are all gone, you can take in other desktops from the clouds. And they made now here this enable autoscale for machines with tag. And so you are also able to make the same, so you can choose just make autoscale and scale up machines in the cloud when all the resources on the on premises is already used. I think that's very nice that this is now possible. It was already possible on premises, but just for applications, not for desktops. So this really helps.
How do you? Can I ask a question? Like, if
yeah,
you use
of course.
If you use this feature, how would you do the profiles, right?
For GPU? Or
no, I mean, if you use it on-prem and the cloud, because you have two storage, like you have to do profile storage, like.
Yeah, I think you have to sync somewhere the
right.
profiles, so that's a difficult thing. You maybe need some third-party apps or so.
Yeah. All right.
But I think you have anyway that problem in future when you are in a hybrid environment. that you handle this in some way, even if you not have all in one machine catalog.
Right.
Yeah. I think that's another topic, and there are different approaches to solve it. Okay for you? So next cool thing, what they've done, and that this is also pretty new, is this tenant scopes. So it's possible now to have different scopes in one environment or in one tenant. So for example, this is my console from the company. So when I see here, I see all the machine catalogs or the delivery groups of the integration environment, the development environment, and the production. And now with this tenant scope feature, I'm able to group, and then I can choose here on this menu. Bad to walk on this. I can choose. I just want to see this group, and then I only see this particular part of delivery groups. As, for example, here I think I choose the Umobi, this is the test environment, and then I see just the test environment. You can also give permission for help desk administrators on this tenant groups, or if you have multiple divisions and you have multiple help desk organizations, you can split off in different groups. This is very, very nice, I think. But it's also nice to know, but I think you guys all know this, that you can define custom defined maintenance windows for your cloud connectors for each resource location. Not so important for us, just in Switzerland, just one time zone. And what's also very nice is that you can make different, for the workspace, you can make different appearance for different groups. For example, I changed my development, my integration, and my production environment in different, with different views in the workspace. We just have 1 minute, really, yeah. So we speed up. Yeah, there are also some parts that are not so nice. We had an outage of the management console for 1 week, so I think support sometimes needs a bit to learn still. But for the end user, there was not a problem, and we was just in the development. We also have the problem what I already mentioned, that we can just connect one Azure AD, and yeah, the business continuity things what René has mentioned, yeah, you also have to implement it. It's not coming by themselves. René, do you want to take 30 seconds for points?
Okay. My pain points, no support for nested Azure AD groups still there. I just heard the other day from a guy from the Netherlands, Citrix support should be able to flip a switch in the backend somehow, that this should work. I didn't try it out yet. CVAL, so Citrix Workspace app for Linux, feature parity is always a thing. It lacks some features, especially when coming to service continuity and so on. Actually, we're dealing with connectivity issues for our macOS users. I don't know if it's a Swiss thing, a European thing, or if it's the same for you, especially when EDT is in place. Also, some video codec issues with H.264 on Linux endpoints. But all in all, I think everything is running quite good, and we're pretty happy with it.
So now very fast, the latest 2 slides. So Rendezvous V2, René already mentioned Rendezvous protocol. V1, now you are able to go connectless. I go very, very fast through it, but just show them the demo. So you are not needed close connected anymore with the Rendezvous v2, and you can make also non-domain joint machines. For example, here we tested that for our company for one special use case. So the video won't start, so maybe it's because of the time, so I'll wrap up. I will do a blog article about that Rendezvous v2 and non-domain joint domains in the next weeks. So you can see that on my website. The Twitter handle is on the website later. So wrap up, the DaaS doesn't contain any desktops, it delivers desktops. Migration can be an adventure, have a good plan, then will it go right. Don't dream about no operations with software as a service or DaaS, otherwise you will wake up in a nightmare. Have a good plan and follow it. And René would say Citrix DaaS is probably the only way to go forward with Citrix, whether you like it or not. But I think when you are in it, you will like it. So thanks for watching our presentation. Sorry for sometimes struggling a bit with the language, but I had fun. I hope you had fun too.
If you want to reach out to them at some of the lunch tables, they'll probably make themselves available if you have any additional questions.
Feel free. Thank you very much.